Now, one of the more interesting things after the events of Wano is going to be the state of the One Piece world, whereas things are going to be a lot different moving forward, and the individual at the center of this chaos will be Luffy, just as he's been throughout the course of the majority of the New World. Now, there will be other moving pieces such as individuals like Shanks, Blackbeard, and Dragon, but Luffy is always at the center of the storm, and this is mainly because for the most part he will be responsible for creating that storm. Now, I think after Wano, the story is going to evolve into something that we've never seen before. Now, I do think the Straw Hats are going to keep sailing to other islands just as usual, but given how I expect things to go, it's hard to say exactly what comes next, because the One Piece world after Wano is going to be in literal chaos. This is the beginning of the One Piece world turning upside down, as mentioned by Whitebeard. And Oda even hints towards this, saying that Marineford would pretty much look like child's play in comparison to the final war, and I think the end of Wano pretty much marks the beginning of the final war. There's going to be a lot of moving pieces, a lot of characters coming out of the woodworks, scheming individuals making their moves such as the Gorosei, and of course the Marines potentially taking a more serious approach to things. And I'll talk more about this later in this video. But before we keep going, I would appreciate it if you dropped a like on this video and subscribe for more One Piece content on this channel. But let's start from the beginning. Now, this whole thing was pretty much hinted ever since the Reverie, in which we come to see a scene where the Gorosei are talking about the world, and what was especially annoying to them was that everything was becoming out of hand. And one of the issues that they talked about was the case of Big Mom and Kaido forming an alliance. So there's all this compounding issues, and the world around them just seems to be getting more and more chaotic. And so the response to this is that they believe that the balance of the world cannot be maintained forever, and there needs to be a great cleansing, a proposition that most likely hints towards them getting rid of all this compounding issues. And so you have this insane setup with the world government seemingly starting to make their moves in an action that will break the system and ultimately would give them the most dominance in the world. And then you also have outside forces also trying to break that balance as well. Big Mom and Kaido have created an alliance in order to reach the One Piece because they also want to break out of this cycle of indefinite stagnation. And then you also have Luffy, someone so determined to become the Pirate King by using the Yonko as stepping stones. And ultimately what you would get is many different pieces actively moving in order to reach the position of being the most dominant in the world. There's only one outcome that can come from this before there's a winner, and that is literal chaos. And this chaos will commence as soon as Kaido is defeated. Now you might ask, won't Luffy just take over Kaido's position after he's defeated and finally become a full-fledged emperor in the same inkling as Big Mom, Kaido, Shanks, and Blackbeard? Well, I've talked about how this isn't within Luffy's character to act like an emperor, but I didn't mention one thing, and that is that the Yonko system will no longer exist after Wano. Now, even though the Gorosei are going to be the spearheads of this idea, since they mentioned the Great Cleansing, Luffy will ultimately be the catalyst for them to initiate this plan, because Luffy will defeat Kaido in Wano, and also possibly Big Mom. Now, I do still think Big Mom is going to exist after Wano just because her storyline involves Albath, and her whole thing is obviously not getting any conclusion in Wano because this is Kaido's arc. But I do see her waning in power and overall becoming a much weaker force after Wano. But I do strongly believe Big Mom will still be active after Wano, and I think part of that is also because the Big Mom pirates are still on Wano but still haven't done anything. But when it comes to Kaido, he will most likely be defeated or killed. Either way, the Beast Pirates as a whole will crumble as a pirate crew. We do also have CP agents on Onigashima, so these guys can easily relay information to the Marines for a backup or to arrest the ones that have been defeated if they haven't done that already. And that could ultimately tie into the whole Great Cleansing because this is a chance for the world government to push that agenda. Now, I'm not exactly sure what the Great Cleansing entails or how they're going to go about it, but I think it's fair to make the assumption to say that it's essentially going to be the eradication of pirates, or at least the eradication of the most dominant pirates in the world, that being the Yonko. So after Wano, we have one emperor out of the picture for sure, possibly two if we include Big Mom, but it's a very big maybe because we don't know what her future entails. But that doesn't necessarily matter because Luffy's reputation will be bolstered to unseen levels whether with bias or not, in which Morgans will most likely report the situation as Luffy being the victor against Big Mom and Kaido, which would definitely put a stain on Big Mom's reputation even if she doesn't necessarily lose here. And that could cause her to lose her status because this would be the second time time that Luffy has technically defeated her, at least in terms of the eyes of the public. So with Big Mom losing here and stacking these L's, reputation and status would definitely lower, probably losing her position, possibly. So that would put two emperors losing or having their status being lowered, and this in of itself causes instability in which the system will no longer be able to function, especially given that the Shichibukai system was abolished as well. And in typical Oda fashion, why not go above and beyond like he usually does, in which the breaking of the Shichibukai system wasn't enough for Oda. He needed more chaos, and what better way is there to create more chaos than to have another system break as well. Now, the world system being abolished created massive ripples in the world, but the breaking of the Yonko system will do even more and create a world where the strongest will emerge. And just like Doflamingo stated, this will kick off the greatest battle for power in the history of pirates, and that struggle of power only truly begins after Wano. And so with a hole within the Yonko system, this will cause the Yonko system to collapse, and this is where things get really interesting, as this causes a power vacuum, as there isn't anything to replace that power. With the warlords, it didn't necessarily create a vacuum because the SSG seemingly covered that power that was lost, but in the case of the Yonko, this is especially bad. Now, the Yonkos have ruled the new world for so long that it's hard to imagine that they weren't people who hated their dominance. When you come to the new world, you either fight against the Yonko or you join them, and so you have a lot of people joining, you have some people fighting against them, but there's also one more group of people that have been lurking to take advantage when the situation turns in your favor: the opportunists, people who have always wanted to reach the top but couldn't because of the wall that is the Yonko. This is the time for these individuals to come out, and this is where we might see a resurgence of potentially new characters. Not sure if Oda has the leeway to do that when we have so many already established characters, but it would make sense if he does from a story perspective, whereas we're going to have individuals like Who's Who come out of the woodworks, and if the lurking legend is Rocks, then this would be a good time to introduce him if he's actually alive, right? And there's also our boy Crocodile, another character that was stopped by the Yonko, specifically Whitebeard. I have no doubt that he will return after Wano, and this also kind of goes with what he said during Impel Down, in which he says that there isn't a shortage of silver medalists shedding tears because they couldn't overcome Roger and Whitebeard, but obviously in this case it would be for the Yonkos. And so I think we're gonna see a lot of people take advantage of this power vacuum, which adds in more chaos to the increasingly erratic world that the new world would become. This would truly become a struggle for supremacy, especially given the amount of moving pieces in the story. Let's just say things are going to get wild. The last 100 chapters of One Piece will be a one-of-a-kind experience. Now, I do want to mention the Marines here as well. Interestingly, after Wano, the Marines will become the strongest individual force in the world, more so than ever, and they are for the most part self-sustained with the help of the SSG. And it's going to be very interesting to see how the Marines are going to operate moving forward, just because I feel like the whole sword plotline makes me think that there might be a shift between the Marines and the world government. Akaino's distaste for how the Celestial Dragons operate hints towards some sort of ripple that could get expanded upon as we progress further into the series. So we might see the Marines more now, because I feel like they've been underused in the story in a sense that there's nothing really substantial with them. So I'm really looking forward to that, because I think the Marines are going to be very active, and we're going to see a lot of Marines that we wanted more screen time of, such as individuals like Smoker, Kizaru, Kobe. These characters, we want to know more about them, because for the most part it's been pirates that's been expanded upon the most in the series, which makes sense because this is a pirates manga. But we do also want to get more from the Marines, because these guys are sort of the antagonists of the pirates, so I think they deserve more, which I think we will be getting more of them after Wano. So that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Comment down below what you guys think. I would appreciate it if you dropped a like on this video. Definitely helps me put out more content, and subscribe for more One Piece content on this channel. You can follow me on Twitter at FerroSpace, but it is Ferro, guys, and I will see you folks later. Peace.